I'm sitting here with David Clow, the Deputy Chief Information Officer at the Metropolitan Police Department in the District of Columbia. Thank you for joining us today, David.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Bob. Thanks for having me.
So this afternoon, we're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation, some of the things, the goals, some of the work that you're doing at MPD. But I wanted to kind of set the stage with just talking about MPD itself. It's rather a unique circumstance to begin with. Not only is it the nation's sixth largest police department with nearly 4,000 sworn officers and several hundred civilian employees, it's also operating in our nation's capital, which comes with a whole another set of challenges and things that needs to be addressed and circumstances to deal with. But then there are also 57 other law enforcement agencies right there in the District of Columbia that collaborates with MPD on a regular basis. Tell us a little bit about your department, some of the responsibilities and some of the unique aspects of working in the District of Columbia.
Sure. So we run an IT shop here at MPD of about 100 individuals that support 300 sworn officers and about 600 civilians. Like you said, the District of Columbia is very unique. This police force acts as a city police force, county, and state police, does all those jobs that those different entities normally would. And we definitely have a lot of federal partners in this space, along with our other local partners and the public safety realm in DC. So we have a lot going on.
I imagine that you have to deal with quite a few events that take place in the Capitol. Tell us about some of the things that you deal with on a regular basis and some things that are coming up that you have to address.
It's been a busy summer for us with all the First Amendment events that's going on. We had the state funeral just recently, and inauguration is the big thing coming up every 4 years. So we have a lot going on other than our routine police responsibilities here in DC.
So just for example, if you think about the inauguration, give me an idea of the type of organizations you have to work with and how much planning goes into an event like that.
There's a lot of planning that goes in. Police forces from all around the country come in and participate in the event, lining the parade route. There's a lot of coordination with our federal partners to make sure that everyone can come to DC and enjoy the spectacle of inauguration in a safe and fun manner. On the preparation side for us, there's a lot to get ready for our systems to make sure we have all the information the officers need and that we're fully ramped up to support the sworn in the field for those big events.
So we're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation today, the journey that many police departments are going through, some of the areas of focus, some of the things you want to accomplish. I know these types of initiatives will make these events like you're describing now much easier to replicate and to address in the future. As we look at digital transformation in a law enforcement agency, that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Tell us some of your thoughts on what it means to MPD and some of the areas of focus that you're setting out to address.
Sure. I think digital transformation can cover a wide variety of things, from low-hanging fruit that are quick fixes to items that are specific problems in your IT field. We had a lot of things in planning and in development when the pandemic hit us, and COVID-19 really fast-tracked some things as it impacted us, much like any other commercial or other government agency. Now we do have 300 sworn in the street, and they stayed on the job, of course, but we do have 600 civilian employees, and where we could, in their job allowed for health and safety reasons, we did enable that workforce to telework. So some of the things we looked at is moving from a traditional paper-bound agency where everything's printed out, filled out by hand, and hand-delivered or scanned in. Moving to a paperless workflow was a big key point for us in the COVID response, enabling all our documentation to be readily available online for officers and folks to be able to fill out and have a process flow that follows policy and enables e-signature was a big win for us. And hand in hand with that was moving that process to touchless transfers. So again, we're not printing out bulk reports and hand delivering them. On the video side, We've gotten out of the DVD burning business and physical delivery, which again made it a much safer environment. It's also easier and more efficient. And then for the workforce, we could enable telework. We had a lot of employees who had desktop devices without mobile laptops. So getting the laptops deployed to those workforces to enable that telework, so they're on our network, our secure VPN, and our hardware was a big lift for us, March through June, definitely.
So it seems that the distributed workforce, which was caused by COVID and the pandemic, has in many ways accelerated the whole process of digital transformation. What are some of the workloads or workflows that have changed as a result, a direct result of moving out to work from home?
I think it's been really interesting to see, especially in a workforce that was very light or almost non-existent on telework, shift to that stance, and how just everyone's embraced all the communication tools that we rolled out for collaboration, video meeting like we are now, and just having the productivity. There was an initial hit, of course, as people made that adjustment, but we're back on track and we're not dropping the ball anywhere. I think it's just really says a lot about the workforce we have, their adaptability and their dedication to getting the job done. And I don't want to say there was a silver lining to such a horrible event, but you have to take advantage of opportunities. And that's what you're able to do here.
You'd mentioned something in previous conversations about recognizing that some of the processes required things in triplicate. Can you talk a little bit about how that's changed and how sometimes it's harder to recognize things that need to be changed just because you've been doing them the same way for a long time?
Yeah, and for me, I've only been here a year, and I'm coming from an outsider perspective, and just be able to spend time with officers on the street, going out and talking to commanders. The things were done on mimeograph paper back in the day, and sometimes these things become intrinsically entrenched in the process. And once we introduce things like paperless processes, e-transfer, cloud storage of documentation and sharing, it really shows the value of IT can bring and some efficiencies we can bring in and then help work with the team to modify those policies and practices. So we're saving paper, we're saving toner, and we're making information easy, available, and actually less of a manual labor for the folks in the field.
Interesting point there. The distributed workforce has created a budget surplus and printer repair and toner budget.
Yeah, and we need that surplus due to the tax hit.
Oh, yeah.
Preparing for the budget impacts in FY21 and 22, and hopefully everything recovers quickly, but we got to plan for the worst in IT for sure.
Well, so a lot of these things on the surface make total sense. Makes how fast can we get there? So what are some of the biggest challenges that you have to overcome in order to implement some of these programs?
You need a strong security team, which we're lucky to have here in DC. We have at the Office of the Chief Technology Officer under the CISO, strong CY security. And it's really nice to be able to lean on them for those enterprise solutions for VPN, all our firewall, phishing attacks, that kind of stuff. And all we have to do on our end is make sure we align with those policies and doing what's our responsibility for the user edge. The other aspects, we're just taking advantage of cloud storage opportunities. We're working on eliminating a lot of inefficiencies, getting out of the hardware maintenance business, and just having our IT staff focus on what is different and special about public safety and letting the big box things happen in the background.
That's very interesting. So a move to more software as a service means a change in the responsibilities of your department at the same time. So you're moving away from server support into application program management, developing solutions. Can you talk a little bit more about that as you transition to software as a service?
Sure. We're shutting down our data center. I would say that project is 95% complete. We went from a huge traditional room in our basement. Now we're down to about a rack and a half of equipment that we're still working on getting out the door. All our servers have gone to what I call the DC Gov Cloud, which is data centers regionally that are operated by the local government. And all our servers are in VMs, our in-house applications are hosted in that cloud. And then for our vendor partners, everything's migrating to a SaaS. So there's really not going to be hosted by us locally, which is great for survivability and continuity of service. And it's also good because we're eliminating HVAC costs, electric costs, other maintenance issues, make us much more nimble workforce.
So there are departments that are in various stages of maturity when it comes to developing or accepting software as a service. What are some of the challenges outside of actually implementing a new solution? What are some of the challenges to moving to a SaaS-based model?
For us, it's a lot about having a good vendor partner you can trust. It's great when you're working with a partner that you've formerly had it hosted locally and you're making that transition to a SaaS with them. You want to have very clear service level agreements and have that transparency on their side so they explain to you what they're doing for continuing service, disaster recovery, make sure that all our assets, even if it's that vendor SaaS, is fully protected and redundant. A challenge can be financial. In government, we often come from a history or tradition of large capital projects where you spend that front end cash to go buy the servers, buy the application, and then just have the OpEx going forward. But with this, there's no capital on a SaaS. So just having that conversation, and I think that conversation is happening a lot in government, of how we have this new financial model that works in the SaaS world going forward.
So what are some of the steps you think are necessary to work with the stakeholders inside the government and some of the funding sources to make the SaaS models more readily available from a procurement standpoint?
I think that's already happening in DC. We have annual IT review board for capital projects, but that board has now expanded its role to also include operational ask, which covers that SaaS solution. So those conversations are being held, but I still think it's just a different financial model, and it's going to take a little while before government makes that full transition. But once they see the benefit of that SaaS, where there's no big refresh every 5 years of hardware and that kind of stuff, it makes sense operationally going forward.
So shift gears here for a second and let's talk about digital evidence management. I know that you're implementing some new solutions there, and I just want to, if you could just expound upon what are some of the challenges with digital evidence and why is it so important to have a good digital evidence management strategy?
It's very important, especially on the IT side. The officers can do everything right. The detectives have taken care of everything they need to. But if we drop the ball on digital evidence, everything falls apart in the 11th hour. So maintaining that chain of custody, knowing where the evidence is stored, having those logs, having those subject matter experts on your team who can go and testify to that chain of custody is very important. Access control, so only the right people who need to access that evidence have access to it. And then integrating that digital evidence information with our record management system and also our data warehouse is very key as well going forward.
So that integration to the record management system, how does that impact the flow of information and some of the workflows there? Is there an opportunity there to improve the integrity of the data? Give us your thoughts around that integration.
We just want to enable the detectives to have and the analysts to have all the information at their fingertips and not have to log into 4 or 5 different systems and try to put things together on their own. And just having that connection so you have a single record of truth through all your applications, and then having that information available in our data warehouse. So any kind of analytics or reports we need to run, it's readily available is very important as well.
So I recall from other conversations, you guys are starting to build a data lake with plans to create a data warehouse and have some access to lots of unsiloed information. What are some of the challenges in moving in that direction that you guys are finding as you go down that pathway?
I think our biggest challenge right now is budget. Honestly, the tax base hit from the pandemic has impacted us as well as everybody else. And I think in response, we've kind of scaled back our initial push, and we're more just putting our toe in the data lake for right now. We are lucky here in DC with our regional data centers for the entire district. We have what I like to call the DC cloud, and we're doing a lot there with hosting our servers and our applications. But we're still working with public sector partners to do our initial proof of concept with a data lake, so we can move beyond databases and data marts and move into having that structured, unstructured data, and be able to take advantage of the commercial landscape and pull those different applications available in the cloud and to manipulate and actuate our data.
So there's the chief information manager, our chief information officer, and then there's others who specialize in the data. You have information, then you have data. Compare and contrast that, because it seems from the outside they're very similar, but I don't think they're quite as similar as we think.
No, I would say one's more generalist and one's more specialist. I come from an infrastructure and network background, and moving into the deputy CIO role, I found out applications and data are important as well. So you become more of a jack of all trades, but you're shallow across all the different silos and spheres of IT, where we're lucky enough here, we have a strong chief data officer who that's all he does is think about our data and how we can use it better. We're doing things like setting up a data inventory, just understanding all the data we currently have, and then setting up the data dictionary, thinking about data governance, putting together a data governance panel with MPD, where we're bringing in the super users and the subject matter experts from other bureaus, so they can work with our data team to understand the value of the data we have and how we can best use it. We want to do dashboards everywhere, so information is there for people to see on an ongoing basis. We want to move away from setting up huge quarterly efforts for reports 6 months annually and have that information always live, so you can just reach out and pull that report down whenever you need it.
So as you moved in this direction to more software as a service, programs as a service applications, and then you build out this access to data, and at the same time you're creating dashboards that are supported by the government cloud over at Octo. How is this changing the role and responsibilities of your team?
It's been great. Like you and me both, we have a lot of things on our resume from 20 years ago that we're not really doing anymore, a lot of old or dead technology. So if you're in the IT field, you're used to evolving and growing on a continual basis. And the team here at MPD has really embraced that. We've got a lot of cloud certifications over the last year, and they're excited about the opportunity to try and learn new things. And if you have good partners, you're working on that collaboratively, where they're putting together those learning scenarios, credits, and training opportunities. So it's been really good for us, and we're ready to take that next step.
Well, as you look ahead to the future, the things you're wanting to accomplish, give us an idea of the goals that the department has over the next 3 to 5 years.
We want to make life easier for the officer and make it easier for them to complete their mission. That's always the foundation and the driver for everything we're doing in public safety IT. We want everything in the palm of their hand, whether it's their smartphone, their tablet, the MBT in the vehicle, access to all the applications, all the documentation they need, data readily available. Situational awareness is key, and the more information they have at their fingertips, the better. Talking more about data, on data transformation, again, available, quick and easy access, integrated with all our applications, so we have that single record of truth, no matter where you're pulling the information from. And then kind of on the application side, we want to consolidate and integrate. We want to kind of kill the sprawl of applications, but make sure all our applications are working together and talking together to remove that dual or triple entry of information that the officers have to do in the field.
So that looks like it could impact quite a few areas, whether it be communications, it could be response, dispatch, investigations. Tell us a little bit about how you see this type of dashboard interacting with various levels of the department, from a portal to access information to ask queries, et cetera.
Yeah, we wanted some of our dashboards to be on display screens in certain operational rooms where it makes sense. Others to be readily available on your mobile devices, and just not have so much reliance upon emails or individual queries for information. Just the things you need to know regularly is there right in front of you.
So as this information becomes more readily available and you have the ability to share it, such as digital evidence, more effectively, how is that impacting your ability to collaborate with the private sector and the community around you?
I think it's huge for us to collaborate not only with our federal and local government partners, but also the community at large. As we've talked about before, the mayor's team and MPD quite a while ago set together the Capital Shield program, where we are integrated with private sector and building CCTV cameras. So if there's a situation or an event that happens, we can reach out directly and pull that footage for the detective or the analyst. And moving that forward, where it's more fully integrated with our systems, is going to provide a great opportunity to improve workflows and that speed of that retrieval and getting that video information in front of that detective or analyst in a quicker manner, so they can take action on it and hopefully resolve things in a much faster timeline.
As an agency operating in the nation's capital, you quite a few stakeholders you have to interact with. I mentioned before 57 or so other law enforcement agencies in the jurisdiction. So with that comes quite a few requests for information, whether it be from prosecutors, from other law enforcement agencies. Plus, there's requests for information from your internal stakeholders. Then you have the open records request. How important it is to address this? How big of an issue is this workload and this workflow?
It's a large percentage of our work lift right now, and it's largely currently on an email is the method and the platform. So we're moving to automate that through different tools. It'll be nice to be able to have a ticketing system that's tied in to the request, and the requests are automated, so those pulls happen automatically. Another area, even on the data side, there's policy, there's memorandums of understanding, and then again, we're working with Octo to take advantage of the enterprise service bus that serves all the district agencies and those common API gateways to make those data exchanges much easier. On the CCTV side, the mayor and her team and MPD quite a while ago put together what's called Capital Shield, where private security cameras for business owners and property agencies could integrate with MPD, and we could do those pulls directly if an incident happens. And it's all about getting that video evidence and that video information to the crime analyst, to detective much faster, so they can resolve an issue before it escalates.
So that's very interesting. It also kind of lends, it's kind of similar to some other things that are happening in a lot of municipal landscapes, and that is the IoT, the smart city movement, where you're having other types of infrastructure come into the area of consideration. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are, especially coming from an infrastructure background, on smart street lighting networks, and IoT sensors that are slowly starting to become more pervasive in the city landscape.
Yes, DC right now has a huge project for street lighting, smart street lighting. It's a huge asset for us to have in the public right of way, not only for public safety, where we're putting our gunshot detection systems and CCTV cameras, but for other district agencies as well. You have the Department of Environment with environmental sensors. You have Department of Public Works and DDOT with their cameras to monitor leaves, parking, snow removal. There's an endless number of things available on IoT. So the street lighting project is huge for us. And the other area that's really great now in this IoT at the edge is 5G and FirstNet, and how we're going to be able to take advantage of these new technologies to deliver more.
That's fascinating stuff. Well, David, I want to thank you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. It's been very insightful. You guys have a lot on your plate, but it looks like you're headed very much in the right direction. So, before we sign off, I'm just curious, as you look ahead to the future, what are some of the things you're most excited about?
I'm just excited about the opportunity here that I have at MPD. Over the past year, I've got to work with a great team and learn a lot. And I think we've kind of got our foundation over the last year, understanding the current state of our environment. And now we have some really clear path and directions we want to go. So we're looking to accomplish a lot in FY21, even in a challenging budget environment. And then work with our partners, our partner agencies, and our federal partners to just to do all we can to make things better for the officers in the field so they can concentrate on their job and not have to worry about the IT infrastructure in the background, and just know that things are going to work and we're going to get the information in front of them.
Well, David Clow, Deputy Chief Information Officer of the Metropolitan Police Department in District of Columbia, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
And thank you. And next time, hopefully we'll do this in person with handshakes and a coffee.
I hope that day returns soon. I really look forward to it. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Bob.